Hi, everyone. We're so glad you joined us for our monthly Lymphedema Patient Roundtable. So many people have registered, and I know that you're logging on right now. As you log on, feel free to put your names in the chat. Tell us where you're from. And while you do that, I am going to introduce our panelists tonight. We have some special guests. In fact, I'm going to start with my special guest, Mike O'Brien. Mike, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you guys?
You are wonderful. And Mike has been a compression therapy consultant for Lympha Press for how many years now?
I think 13 and a half.
What?
Yeah.
You started when you were just a mere child. Anyhow, you know, sometimes we just want to help paint a picture of the fact that you are supported. Like, we are here at the round table to support you in your lymphedema journey. Lympha Press doesn't just give you a pump and say, have at it. We really are here to support you. That's why we do the roundtables. But your compression therapy consultant is your connection. If you are logging on and you don't have a Lympha Press, you're looking for some help in your area, all we need to know is what city and state you're at. Kelly's always emailing me. Who's the compression therapy consultant in Kentucky or here or there? We make those connections, and those connections can help make someone's life better. And one of the things Mike has always said is, giving people hope is a great job to have. So Mike, we're glad to have you here, and we look forward to you jumping into the conversation. We have Blanche from Philly out there, Leslyn Keith from Ventura Highway all right, I won't sing. Sandra is here. And we have so many great people. Everybody loves Blanche. Jen from New Jersey. Is Jennifer Casper one of your patients by any chance, Mike O'Brien?
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's all right. Oh, you don't know. Robert Schneider, thanks for being here. He's got a lot. He's taking care of a lot of people. Danielle Gum, Beverly from Cleveland, Ohio, Stephanie Roach, all these wonderful people. Lisa Burtock, gosh, Carrie, North Carolina. You got to know that person, right, Kelly? You know Kelly Bell. All right, so let me introduce Kelly Bell. Kelly Bell is veteran fighting lymphedema, and he is continuing to fight and be a wonderful advocate for the lymphedema community. We always love what he has to share. Hey, Kirsten Estes, so nice to have you from Central Virginia. What a robust crowd, diverse crowd. We're so glad to have you. Okay, we have Catherine Rosenberg, lymphedema patient extraordinaire, who actually showed up at the recent Lympha Press employee celebration. Before I introduce everybody else, Catherine, tell all, what were you doing there?
Well, that was a very nice invitation that Brenda had offered to me to be the patient speaker for the Lympha Press employees at their employee recognition dinner.
And you talked about how
Lympha Press is a very big part of my compression regimen, and the fact that I don't know how I would survive without it.
Well, amen, sister. And you know what? We have people here that have a Lympha Press, people that don't. Whatever your situation is, we're here to encourage you, and we want to help you. If you have a Lympha Press and maybe you're feeling a little bit discouraged, maybe you need some encouragement, you're in the right place tonight, because everybody here is managing their lymphedema effectively. Angela Jones, you are a lymphedema patient, and we always love your smile and the wisdom that you bring, and the candor, because sometimes it just isn't fun, is it?
No, it's not.
But somehow you always seem to find your smile. What's your secret?
Oh, well, I look better with a smile than a frown.
Someone once said the smile is the best makeup you could ever wear. Well, we're glad your smile is here, and we look forward to talking to you later as well. Amanda Sobey has been missing in action, but not from the lymphedema community. She's just been super busy. She's so active during World Lymphedema Month, had a host of webinars and activities. Gosh, we missed you though.
I'm so sorry I missed out. I really apologize, but I've been cheering you guys on. So happy to be back. So, hey guys.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. You recently did a webinar on essential oils, and I want to chat with you about that a little bit before we end tonight's program. By the way, if you have questions for any of our panelists about how to manage lymphedema, stick it in the Q&A and we will get to it. We would love to do the best we can. We don't offer medical advice, but we do offer candor from our own personal experiences. And Mike can also speak as a seasoned compression therapy consultant about how to use your Lymphopress effectively. Oh, and we just have another addition too. But before I get to introducing Nasreen Starner, Alexa Ercolano is my partner in all good things. I won't say partner in crime, but she is one of our marketing associates. She is a part of the marketing team at Lympha Press. She just recently won a huge award as a top employee for her influence, not only in our organization, but out there in social media. She does all of our social posts. So congratulations to Alexa, who also runs the Lymphy Life blog. That's how I found her. And by the way, if you're interested in learning more about lymphedema, Lymphy Life curates so many amazing articles. Where do you find them all, Alexa?
Well, every morning I go online and I check to see any recently published news articles out on the internet, and I schedule them to go across my Facebook and Twitter and all of that. So please give me a follow if you'd want to stay up to date on some lymphatic news.
Yes, the
covered.
Lymphy Life. The Lymphy Life is a very well-respected blog, and we're so
Thank you,
glad to
Brenda.
have you here tonight as well.
Thank you.
Nasreen Starner, I was hoping you could be here because our friends Betty Westbrook and Karen Ashforth couldn't be there. But aside from that, we always love having you. Nasreen is a certified lymphedema therapist. She is the one person we would go to in this panel for any kind of medical insights. Although I gotta say, our panel of patients is also super smart and well-studied, well-versed in all things lymphedema. So this is your clearinghouse for information. The one night of the month devoted to candid talk about lymphedema. We do have a question in the chat, and I bet you can answer this, Mike, off the top of your head. Who is the Lymphopress rep for Richmond, Virginia?
Who is the new rep in Virginia?
That would be Anthony Mitchell. And I wonder if Anthony is with us right now. Teresa, if you need us to connect you with Anthony Mitchell, one of the nicest guys you will ever meet, just let me know. You have my email address, and please let me connect you with Anthony because he would be wonderful to help you. Our friend Nita Cluis is out there. Hi, Nita. We just absolutely love you. You bring so much light to the lymphedema and the lipedema communities. Thank you for being here tonight, my friend Nita. We have a question from Andrea Oliver. She is a nurse practitioner in Carthage, Texas. She has a patient that is over 1,000 pounds who has terrible lymphedema, essentially untreated for years, desperate for effective treatments for him. Can I just tell you, Andrea, there is hope for the patient that is the larger size. I will speak as a Lymphopress representative. Mike, feel free to jump in, and then anybody else who wishes to. We have a garment called the LymphaPod. And I just interviewed Sean Mulrooney today, who has over 1 million followers, and he runs the Obesity Revolution. And he has not just obesity, he has lymphedema, and he has friends who have not been able to leave their house for 10 years. And for Sean Mulrooney, the LymphaPod by Lymphopress has been a game changer. These are patients that are generally very immobile. But if you can lay on your bed and have someone zip you up, some even can do it themselves, and press start, you can begin to move the lymphatics. And I'm excited to connect you with your local rep. Can you please put in chat, or please put in the Q&A? Okay, you're in Carthage, Texas. We've got like 3 different reps that cover Texas. So if you can tell me the major city that is closest to. Now let's talk about the other panelists' ideas about what could help Andrea's patient. Are you raising your hand there, Amanda? Go for it.
So I think obesity was always considered, it was funny, I was driving my car today And we always assume that obesity happened because patients ate a lot, right? So we would always recommend gastric bypasses. We would always, attribute get moving, get exercising. And now that we know so much based on the lymphatics, we know that it is just a different ball game. This is a genetic disorder. It could be hereditary for our clients. So understanding the disease to begin with is first and foremost what needs to be educated to the patient. And then second of all, implementing the right tools. So for example, Lymphopress helps offer pumps towards moving the lymphatics, as well as safely moving. People that are bedridden can safely move their bodies to push and move the lymphatics. If you're not familiarized, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you. But again, we want to make sure that we are targeting the debris, because a lot of the stuff that pools into the lymphatics, a lot of the waste that goes into the lymphatics is what causes obesity. Now that we're figuring it out, we can safely move that. And then also nutrition plays a huge part. So we don't have to go for mass radical surgeries. We don't have to do like insane tactics. We can start safely rehabilitating your client in their own home by making micro adjustments to increase their overall performance. So again, if you don't know who I am, my name is Amanda Sobey. You can find me on social media. I'd be very willing to work with your client and help teach them that they can safely make changes by micro manipulations to relieve the intensity or relieve the symptoms based on their lymphatic systems.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, and to kind of go off what Amanda's saying, if anybody knows my story, my lymphatics were damaged, my central lymphatics, and that actually caused me to gain weight, fat to be stored. That cycle gets in there, and if that doesn't get resolved, you just grow. And so, unfortunately, the medical community kind of like attacks you and says, "Oh, you need to eat. You're eating wrong. You're doing this." And so if for your patient, understand it's not a weakness thing. Like before this happened, I was in the military, a triathlete, very in shape. And boy, within 4.5 years, I was battling congestive heart failure, kidney failure, and everything else, all because of my damaged lymphatics. And so the flip for me was the ketogenic diet. It really helped. There's a conference the end of this month. It's a virtual conference for lipedema and lymphedema, the ketogenic revolution. I'll put a link in the comments. That for me was like a switch. And so.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that. And I also love that you're going to have on this group of panelists different ideas, because it's not one size fits all. And we also want every patient to know that we are not saying you got to do this or you got to do that, but here are ideas and resources. Amanda's a resource. The Keto Diet and this upcoming seminar is a resource. LymphaPress is a resource. And so these are all options to give patients hope. That's what we're all about. Now, Nasreen, have you ever encountered a patient that it was 1,000+ pounds?
So I do work in an outpatient clinic currently, so we don't really have those patients, but I did work hospital-based once upon a time. And the thing I found is positioning really does make a large difference. If once you hit 1,000 pounds, typically there are areas of the body that may just be dependent. And so maybe elevation of, and I do apologize, I wasn't sure if this was a male or female, but for genitals,
sure
just
either.
even, elevating
male.
up on pillows, having those legs up too, that can help. And of course, if they have other medical conditions, we want to make sure that we're not rerouting too much fluid. Oh, male, I see that. But that we're not going to reroute too much fluid too quickly, but sometimes even just minor elevation, getting some pillows under their arms and legs and under their genitals does make a pretty quick difference. And then compression really does make a big change. At that size, a lot of our typical compression garments are a little bit challenging. I have on legs used abdominal binders when they've been at that size, because that sometimes can work. And I do apologize if the legs aren't that large and I'm making this assumption, but I do find that Medi has a reduction kit that you can customize for your patients. So you can cut it and make it, and it is a Velcro inelastic garment. That one I have found works really well for some of my population that maybe can't get up and move as easily, because you can kind of just slide it right underneath them and adjust the strapping as needed. So I think getting a little bit of compression and elevation would make a lot of difference. And I have had patients use the pod. So that, and I think there was another question I saw in the chat too about size wise. I've had them be custom made. So they've been able to really help. They take measurements of the patients and they've made things custom for my patients depending what is needed.
I'm so glad you mentioned that there is the ability for LymphaPress to do a custom garment. That's one of the benefits of us having such a great relationship with our manufacturer. And we have, in fact, just this past week, we saw a 4-year-old little girl fitted with her LymphaPress leg sleeves. And we've got the amputee sleeves. Unfortunately, for those that have had their legs amputated, but they still need compression, we can do that. We will work with you. We care deeply about helping these patients. Mike, do you have any patients that come off the top of your head that you've seen use the LymphaPod and it's helped them, especially obese patients?
Yeah, because you're talking about a more than one issue here normally when you have someone that's at that weight. So it's got to be attacked from a bunch of different angles. But I have had the pod on 2 or 3 patients. It doesn't get used a lot because it's a rare patient that normally uses it. But I know there was a question. Brent, I think you sent me a question. I don't know if you want me to answer it on here.
Yeah, go for it. Yes.
About how I think my largest patient was about 850 pounds. She was able to get it on with help. But that is, you're going to need some help with it. But I think, if you have some support, you're going to need that anyway to help tackle that problem. So, but I know it can be custom made. We can do some, but I remember that patient, that was pretty early in my career too, the one patient. And we had a VA patient a few years ago that was probably more closer to 500 pounds. But that patient fit in it perfectly and it worked out great for them. So it depends. I hate to say that it's a lot. I answer a lot of questions, but it depends because you have to look at the whole situation before you can really say, hey, this is going to work or it's not going to work. And sometimes we actually have to try it and see if it's going to work. So
and
that's what we're here for.
That's exactly what we're here for. And that's why, Andrea, and I see you're asking a lot of questions in chat as well. It seems like we need to have a one-on-one conversation with you so that we can really assess what your patient needs. Also, you have the resources of reaching out to Amanda. She put her website in chat as well. We would be honored to work with you. Shreveport, Louisiana, we have a wonderful person who covers that area, a wonderful company that covers that area. So let's stay connected. I am B Viola at lymphapress.com. Alexa, would you mind putting that in chat so anybody can reach out to me after this? And thank you also.
Can I just interrupt and say thank you so much to the therapist that is devoting her life to asking information and getting involved, because I just want to say that it's because of therapists like you that help patients. So just a round of applause for you for just being here and for being, engaged and
caring.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Totally.
So
mad props to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. And also Alexa just put a link to information about the LymphaPod also in chat. So we are here. We've got a wealth of resources for you. So it's very interesting. We've got a lot of really good questions coming in. One from Jerry Jackson. Has anyone had lymphedema while having had radiation and chemo and she's specifically saying colon cancer, but we have many stories of patients who have gotten lymphedema after many different types of cancer. I see you sort of nodding, Catherine. Would you like to weigh in on that question?
Sure. So I didn't have lymphedema while having the cancer treatment actively, but I developed it about 4 weeks later. So, and everybody's body is going to react differently. So, you know, it's, as we said before, it's not a one size fits all. So what happens for one person is not going to be a guarantee to happen to another person. So you kind of have to really work with your physicians, oncologists / physical therapists / surgeons on what is the best option for you, especially if you know going in that you have lymphedema. What can they do to help you in making the outcomes the most successful for you, so you don't, I want to say, enhance the condition further while going through. But sometimes you might not be able to prevent that because it is such a challenging disease to work with.
Yeah, and you are here to talk about you speak from experience.
Yes, I do.
And, I like the fact that we have lots of different people with lymphedema who treat lymphedema from different perspectives. Again, the aim is to give you hope. So those of you who are interested in that question, you can look at someone like Catherine and say, she's managing her condition. And it wasn't anything she had ever hoped for. I mean, it's one thing to get a cancer diagnosis, and then the 1-2 punch of then getting treated and then developing lymphedema. I think often of the breast cancer patients as well. You get a breast cancer diagnosis and then you're sucker punched to discover you have lymphedema. Kelly, though cancer wasn't the culprit, again, it's that I dealt with a really challenging medical situation, and now I got this.
Actually, for me, it was a simple medical procedure that 30-minute procedure changed my life. And so that's why when Amanda's like recommending not any serious surgeries, I am telling you, try everything else first. Because a 30-minute procedure has put me in battling this for 17 years. So
yeah, and you're battling it so well, and as a result, you found such a purpose in your life to help other people with lymphedema, and I really respect that, Kelly. In fact, you wrote something on your social media. I'm going to surprise you with this one, but I was stalking you, Kelly.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you said this: if you don't transform your suffering, you will transmit it.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys, if you've ever heard me speak, I usually finish with find your peace. And as I said, a 30-minute procedure ended my career, put me in this 17-year battle of crazy medical stuff. And so I became very angry and very frustrated. And that did not improve anything, just so you know. And so I spent a year in therapy, and what I literally said, I'm going to find my peace. And that's exactly what I wrote on my form on the intake form when I went to my therapist. What do you want? To find my peace. And I'll honestly tell you, that is what changes everything, is to do anything from the point of peace rather than the anger, because it's just, you're happier. It's not an anchor for you anymore. And to be honest with you, the stress actually causes more issues with your lymphatics. So.
Boy, in all of our lives, look, we have the opportunity to face. How many of you had a challenging day? Anybody? Yeah, hello, right? And so we have the opportunity to complain, which only drags us down, or to look for either the blessings or the silver linings or whatever. And I'm not trying to sound all Pollyanna, but you know what? We've all lived some life here, and we've all survived some stuff. And we are here for the purpose of shining a light so that you can link arms with us. Kelly, you were telling me a story that you and Amanda ended up connecting with someone through the roundtable. So the roundtable's really working, huh?
Yeah.
What happened?
So I'm going to say her first now. I didn't. So Shannon reached out to me on Messenger. She found me on Facebook, and she's like, "Hey, can you talk to me about the ketogenic diet?" And I'm like, "Well, sure." And so I said, "Where do you live?" And I'm looking, and it says, "Oh, North Carolina." I was like, "Hey, you only live a couple hours away. You want to meet up?" And she goes, "You will meet with me?" And I'm like, "Well, it's easier to talk in person." And so I drive a couple hours away, and I meet up with her. And she goes, "Oh, I talked to Amanda today." And I'm like, Oh, that is so awesome. I mean, because before we came on, we were talking about this, and there was another patient that reached out to me for help with an issue, or the central lymphatic issue. And I said, like, it's so awesome you're part of a family now. That you never realize, like, lymphedema has to be a family, because we're the only, like, it's just so awesome. And so as a team, Amanda and I are going to work with her. So it's pretty awesome.
It's so surprising because you talked to her, and then I don't know, Shannon, if you are here tonight, if so, put yourself in chat and say, yep, I'm Shannon. But Shannon found you through the roundtable and discovered you were in North Carolina. And then I'm sure, Amanda, how did she find you? Was it just through Google, Dr. Google?
Good question. I didn't ask. World Lymphedema Month was, in my world, it was a whirlwind, but I think it was a combination of events. And I think when people start to find their tribe, it doesn't really matter where you're found. It just matters where you belong. And it was really cool to work with her, or at least talk with her, because she was in North Carolina. Now we're really honing on you, Shannon. Sorry about that. But it was really amazing. Oh, see, she's here.
Hey, Shannon Brown, we're saying hello to you, and we're so glad you found us. Here's the thing, when you first, and I don't mean to cut you off, Amanda, but there is so much kind of relief when you're finally diagnosed. It's like, oh, I finally know what's going on with my body. And then you start to meet other people, and it is alternately exciting and challenging. And the enthusiasm that you're bringing to your new diagnosis and all the things that you're learning, we really honor that. And we want you to know that anybody here is someone that you can connect with and get help and support, and you will find your way. Was it overwhelming, Angela, when you first were diagnosed and you were trying to find answers and where you fit in and people that you could relate to?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer that question, piggyback off Amanda and Kelly. I'm a secondary lymphedema patient. I got it after I lost over 200 pounds, and I decided to get a tummy tuck, and I was left with lymphedema. So I was angry primarily at the doctor. Of course, it wasn't his fault. I was angry at myself. I was just plain angry. And it took me a while, because I can carry a grudge for a long time. And the grudge was against myself. So I had to, like Kelly said, I had to come to peace with it. And I had to accept, this is what it is. I just need to deal with it, and I need to move forward. So I was very angry. Yeah. And I'm at peace now. It is what it is. So.
Yeah. Go ahead, Catherine. I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to piggyback off of what Kelly had to say as well. Kelly and I were actually talking to somebody else earlier this week, and they were explaining that they were struggling as well with, understanding what to do to help themselves. And some people know what my background is, and some people don't always know what my real life job is. And I'm actually a special education teacher. So when I think about this and thinking about what we need to do to help ourselves, before we can help ourselves, we have to come to a realization that we may not be able to do things the way we're used to doing them, but we need to learn to accommodate and modify in order to be able to continue on doing what we're supposed to, what we're called to do. So before you try to jump in to, oh, I need answers, I need this, you might want to try to figure out, how can I modify what I currently do to see how I can help myself first? Because you might not get your answers in the timely fashion that you want.
That's a good point. I see you nodding, Alexa, as well. I know it can be overwhelming when you're initially diagnosed, and you've been challenged with your lymphedema diagnosis since you were a little girl. Any advice for someone new to the fold like Shannon? What would you say to her?
Sure. I mean, like everyone else here has expressed, I went through a major period of anger, resentment towards myself and my body, very self-destructive for a long time, struggled with an eating disorder and substance abuse, and pretty much a cornucopia of issues, because I just wanted so badly to, in all of that lack of control, find something I could kind of control, because my body was out of my control, it seemed like. So once you get through that turmoil, that initial feeling of like, oh my God, what does this mean for me? What is my life now? It feels like a sentencing at first, but I really like what Catherine said about finding like modifications. It took me a long time to get to the point where I'd wear my garment visible in public. It's still something I struggle with a little bit, but I got to the point where I thought, you know, my comfort and my health and well-being is way more important than when some passing stranger on the sidewalk might think, seeing my leg and wondering, oh gosh, like what's wrong with her leg, you know, or whatever. Who cares? You know, it takes a while to get to that. And I don't want anyone out there to feel like you're behind by not being at that point yet, at that place of acceptance. It's a daily, you know, kind of effort that you kind of chip away at, but you know, it's possible, and you can get to that place, and you've got a huge community. The online community is massive, it's global. So chances are there's at least one person out there who's going to understand where you're coming from when you're having a tough day. So don't be afraid to reach out or just kind of lurk on, you know, some of the Instagram pages and stuff of patients that are really out in public about their experience. They're really helpful to look at too for inspiration, and just lean on your people. You know, we're all here for you.
And not everybody's going to be a match. It's sort of like online dating. Swipe until you find something that's working for you. It's okay. Don't be discouraged if you don't find all the answers right away. Just keep going. I want to honor John Hershinger, who is out there, who said in chat, push yourself to do things you might not try. We applaud you, John. We think that that's amazing. And I also want to mention Carolyn Smith, Kaiser, who says she is a 20-year cancer survivor, and the resulting lymphedema was not diagnosed for 7 years. And then 2 years ago, she was diagnosed with stage 3 lipedema. And our panelist, Angela, understands both lipedema and lymphedema. She says compression doesn't always work for her. And Kelly, you jumped in and said, you know, sometimes I can't wear compression either. So
I can't wear it at all. It actually pushes fluid into my trunk and causes issues. So I just have to manage I have to use my pump more and manage it. And it's one of the reasons is because I'm imaged and I know where the damage is and I know what's going on. So that helps me tremendously. I'm a huge proponent of trying to get imaged. I think Dr. Chen said one time, more imaging and less guessing. I love that comment because it really does help, like knowing what I'm trying to manage. So,
compression therapy consultant question, Mike O'Brien. Do you need to wear socks on your feet when using the Lymphopress?
Well, you don't have to wear socks, no, if you don't want to. You can not wear anything if you want to. There's a lot of people that pump in shorts but I do recommend socks or maybe pajamas or something like that, just because I explain it to my patients as the toilet seat effect. They're cold when you first put them on. I don't know if is that appropriate for this call or
listen, we haven't gotten to the part where we talk about peeing. We usually do that at least once a round table. So everything is appropriate. If it helps to explain, then yes. I think as a general rule, we usually do recommend that there is some sort of a stocking or a sock. Are other Lymphopress users here? Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Go ahead, Catherine.
So I use a pair of leggings Mike is actually my Lymphopress consultant, and that comment was one of the first things he said to me, and it stuck with me to make sure that
the sitting on the cold toilet seat analogy.
Yes.
Gotta love Mike O'Brien.
Yeah. Well, you knew what you were getting into when you asked me to do this, so you know.
I know, and that's why I asked you to do it, because you're not boring. We do not do boring at the round table. So.
But it was one of those things, like, I am sensitive to temperatures. So by wearing a legging, it prevents an extra sensitivity for me and allows me to be able to pump, adequately for myself. But everybody's different. So it's one of those things that you have to really weigh out what works best for you. And that's a trial and error.
Go ahead, Nasreen.
Okay, sorry, my phone wasn't turning on. The one thing I was going to just say, because some people say socks interchangeably with garments, I
Yeah.
typically don't love for my patients to wear compression garments while they're pumping, unless maybe something like the nighttime garments, those things that look like pot holders, those ones are pretty safe to use. It's not that they're not necessarily safe, but what happens a lot of times when people use them is they start to bunch up, especially with that pressure. And I've had patients get almost tourniquet style binding from it, from their garments. So I know they're safe, but it has to be for the right person. So I just am not sure what your leg looks like, who we're talking to. So
I'm so glad you
depending,
made that distinction, because a sock or a stocking is not the same thing as a compression garment underneath the pump. So good point.
and then I'd also like to say that I've reached out to Kelly for help. And while we're just talking, somebody's messaging our group right now. So he's helping everyone.
Kelly, you are
Mhm.
so appreciated. We love your big heart. It really is helping people.
I just love people and I hate to see them suffer. If I can help, I try.
But you also tease and torment all of us too. So just don't think Kelly's perfect, because Kelly,
What'd you say?
Kelly teases and torments all of us. Just a
Hey, I
little
do
bit.
that when I'm off screen. We're not going to bring that out of the public. Like, actually, I will. Anybody that's been with me, I'm going to like.
Yeah, he's like the ornery brother.
Can I bring a physics aspect into the wearing compression while you're like
go ahead.
pumping?
And then after you, Alexa, jump on in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, what happens? So when you're wearing compression, so the pump is designed to like pump, right? There is a not just the squeeze, but that relaxation is just as important. So if you're wearing compression, when that pump lets out and your compression, it's not allowing as much fluid to flow. So I personally wouldn't, even if I wore compression, wouldn't wear it by then, because if you look at the valves and the way they're designed, they need as much relaxation as they need contraction. And so if you can get away with it, that's what I recommend.
Kelly, that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great, like I've never thought of that, because we talk about how the release is just as important as the pumping up of, the pump. And I've never thought about that aspect of it. You don't have that same recovery, or refill, as you say, when you say without that. So
I just want to,
I come on these things because I learn.
Yeah, I mean, I live it, so I have to figure things out. So I will tell you, Renata just commented on Catherine and I. That's who Catherine and I were talking about. We were talking to her Friday night. So, and I will be honest with you, like, it was great having Catherine and Renata, like all of us in a group. Like, it's really funny. We're on here talking Zoom, and like, it doesn't just end when this screen goes off. Just like,
no, it definitely doesn't end.
No.
All right. So Alexa, you wanted to say something about the wearing socks or something underneath your pump.
Sorry, this isn't as, groundbreaking as Kelly's insight, but I like to wear like loose, like pajama pants, also because you can kind of sweat a little bit, or it gets warm. So just from a hygienic standpoint, I like to have some kind of loose, long pants just for that part. So not as scientific and physics related of an answer, but it gets sweaty sometimes. So
okay, not all of us are into, science and physics, but practical advice is what we're all about too. So Kelly, we should just put a PhD after your name. Okay.
No.
Question from Linda McDonald. Thank you, Linda, for typing a question in. We're excited and hopefully we can help you. Anyone dealing with carpal tunnel and lymphedema? Or anybody that can speak to that, perhaps Nasreen?
So I have a lot of patients who have very similar carpal tunnel symptoms while they're having lymphedema. And we're not 100% sure kind of what, if it's because of the lymphedema that they're having the carpal tunnel. There can be compression on that median nerve from all the swelling. I've had patients, once we have decongested their limb, their carpal tunnel symptoms get much better. So if you're currently treated and reduced and have carpal tunnel, that's a different story. And I know sometimes people wonder whether or not they can have the carpal tunnel surgeries. And I have had patients with lymphedema get those surgeries, and we just work on it afterwards if it is something else going on. Oftentimes it's because of the change in body mechanics. When you have that extra weight and your arm is a little bit more forward, it can completely change the way those tendons are, and it might compress that nerve a little bit more. So I have seen it with quite a few of my patients, and typically with treatment, it does get a little bit better. So if you have a lymphedema therapist, they might be able to help with that a little bit. Sometimes when you're having that type of swelling and you have to wear your compression garments, you can't wear your night braces as easily. So working with your therapist to find a garment that you could wear with the braces might help too.
Excellent. We had a question that came in about how to discern lymphatic drainage machines and which one to, and we never ever want to take the place of the therapists and doctors with whom we work. Now, someone like you, Mike, would connect with a doctor and learn about the patient's size, needs, condition, and then maybe you would make a recommendation regarding what garment, what pump. Is that how that would normally go, Mike?
Normally, I recommend a Lymphopress, but
well, of course. Aside from that, but
sorry.
Yeah, but
I think being in this for 13 years, the beginning when I first started, lymphedema therapy and what we do were really, they butted heads a lot. There was not a lot of they didn't want to use pumps, and I think what we've learned over the years now is, and the approach I've always taken is, let's attack it from all angles, everything we can. But in the end, it's the therapist, it's the doctor. I'm not a clinician, so I fit in there to help and answer their questions. But the treatment protocol is going to be what they want to do, and I'm going to help their patient the way they need, the way they see fit.
Yeah. So we're really Lymphopress. The Lymphopress team is like an extension of the doctor's office. We work hand in glove. We help to support the best patient outcomes. And, one thing we can say about Lymphopress is it's super easy to use. You want to make sure that whatever compression you are using is something you can don and doff easily, that it's not going to be cumbersome, not a lot of straps and maneuvers to get into it and to use it. So we highly recommend it, because if it's easy to use, you're more likely to use it. If you're more likely to use it, you're more likely to get better. And that's really what we care about around here. So let me talk about a question from Sandra Stetler. She uses the arm Lymphopress, and she's concerned that it doesn't apply enough pressure to the area above and below the elbow on the back of her arm. Is there a way of adjusting the garment to get better results? And where should the zippers seam of the garment lie? Mike, I'm so sorry to put you on the spot like this, but is there a specific placement of the zipper seam that's optimal?
Well, I don't know if you have control over that, because if it's just the arm, if it's just an arm, I'm thinking in terms of a vest, but I think it's going to run down the way the hoses are. It's going to end up adjusting itself anyway. You fit in there a certain way.
Right, because the Lymphopress fills to fit.
Yeah.
So if you're not feeling like you're getting enough compression here, that's a really good question to go back to the doctor or your compression therapy consultant with. And Nasreen, we want you to weigh into, but Mike, finish your thought.
Yeah, I think, especially with the Optimal Plus, we're able to customize that pressure, a little bit. If we're seeing that there's not enough pressure in that area, we can go on the app and increase the pressure in that area. I think that's the one great thing about the Optimal. Now, I don't know if this patient has an Optimal or not, but we can also, I think sometimes increasing the pressure is something we definitely have to bounce off a therapist, because I think sometimes we're dealing with, if we're dealing with venous disease, I see vascular doctors get a little more aggressive than lymph. That's the way I look at it. I don't want to be as aggressive with upper extremity with a recovering cancer patient, because I may be wrong, but I've always felt like that's a more delicate situation.
Yeah, we
So-
always want to err on the side of caution. So that's
Yeah.
really, really good input. And it really is unique about the Optimal Plus that you can target focus areas and increase pressure. We never advocate changing the pressure all by yourself. Always do it with your doctor's input and oversight. Nasreen, what did you want to say about this question?
I was just going to say, if it seems like it's more of a stubborn area of swelling, I don't know if maybe they're using garments, and that might be an area where it binds to. That's a spot I find on a lot of people, the wrist, the elbow, and the upper arm. Patients find a lot of binding in those areas. But with the pump, when patients are using those, if you add sometimes something like a swell spot, or maybe your therapist could make something like a chip bag, that would just be slide right inside of there, and you could get a little bit more compression to that area as it's pumping.
Some people may have never, maybe some of our newbies don't know what a chip bag is.
Oh. So a swell spot is filled with foam, and a chip bag is something that the therapists make. It's typically just a stockinette that we fill with gray and orange foam, and we try to make it based on the shape and size of where we're trying to cover, and it's to break up that fibrotic tissue or hardened. Or sometimes if people just have stubborn areas of swelling, if we put that underneath the bandaging or put that in the pump, it really does help a lot, as well as we use them to help with shaping of the arms and legs when we do our bandaging. But it does help a lot with pumping for my patients. I know they wrote chip bag again. Our patients do help, but it is just something the therapists make. But a swell spot, if you look up a swell spot, it's a very similar idea to that.
Great. I'm so glad you brought it up. Maybe next month we can actually bring a chip bag on for show and tell, because people want to know and they want to see. And you know, we are quickly running out of time. So roundtables are about everything. They're about anything related to lymphedema that might be of interest to you. We are always talking about the Lymphopress because, you know, Lymphopress has sponsored this, but there's other stuff too. So essential oils, Amanda. What does that have to do with lymphedema?
So I find, and I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, when you get swelling anywhere in your body, we become so fixated on the swelling, right? It's my leg is swollen or my arm is swollen, and we're always immediately fixated on what do I do? What do I do? And I want people to think outside of the box, because there's many tools, and I think Kelly and Alexa and Angela and Catherine, we've all used different tools, and it can mean anything to anybody. And I've gone to the Eastern medicine for some of my tools. I do love using essential oils. I find that, again, when I use essential oils, they calm my parasympathetic nervous system. I get calmed down. I get to relax a little bit. But there's also other essential oils that stimulate the lymphatic system. So again, get outside of your comfort zone when you're dealing with lymphedema or lipedema. Don't always just hone in to the disease of the condition itself. There are many different avenues that you can take, and it can come in many different forms. And the beautiful process, but the most uncomfortable process, is getting outside of your comfort zone, finding what works for you, and not being afraid of using other techniques that could be in your toolbox, such as essential oils.
I love it. And you did a webinar on this, so people can see a replay of that, perhaps?
Definitely. I have little snippets right now posted on my Facebook and my Instagram at am.sobi. I will be releasing the full webinar on my YouTube page, so you guys can definitely check it out. And essential oils is just another complementary tool that can be used to help your overall well-being. And again, when it comes to lymphedema, we've all recognized that it's just not a one-size-fits-all. Nutrition plays a role, compression therapy plays a role, fitness and self-care, and that can come in various different forms. So again, essential oils just might be your thing, so you never know.
You never know. And I have to say, so I have been traveling in the last month, and I have dear friends staying at my house who are organic cooks.
Oh,
And
nice.
green things are show. Angela, you would approve green and red and purple things are showing up on my plate miraculously, like a lot. So food can be like your medicine too. And you are always advocating healthy, natural. So do your spiel. And can you encourage us? And is it hard to do? I mean, it's not hard when it just shows up in a plate, but how do you make all these amazing, like what's in your loaded broccoli salad?
Whatever I grab. I don't use recipes. I don't like recipes. I grew up in the South. I grew up in North Carolina, and I learned to cook a certain way. I had to reteach myself. I had to teach myself a new way to cook things that I was used to eating. And I realized that I like feeling better more than I like anything I could eat. It's very important. My comfort is number one on my list. And so I had to teach myself to cook things in a new way and to use foods in a new way. I love colors in food because I think you eat with your eyes first. So I put a lot of time into just playing around. I call my kitchen my lab. And I have, 2 kitchens, one in Arizona, one in North Carolina. So I do different things in each kitchen. But just, it's a matter of how do you want to feel? What does your body say you need?
It's so true. I actually feel different. And it's just been a week of eating clean, organic, healthy, green. It's just really amazing. So you're absolutely right. And I think you are an inspiration. You've got to follow Angela Jones on her Facebook page and just see what she's cooking up. I think you should do a show. What's cooking with Angela Jones? Whatever you're cooking,
I like that.
eating. I know, right? You can pay me later for that idea.
Okay.
Alexa Ercolano, when you clean your Lymphopress, how do you do it? Ellen White wants to know.
I just wipe it down with a nice little, soap and water, real light. Doesn't take too much. Real easy.
And Catherine's nodding. That's what she does too. I think that's one of the unique benefits too of the Lymphopress, right, Mike? It's
definitely
easy to clean.
Yes. I want to actually, can I make a comment real quick?
Go for it.
I want to second the essential oil thing. And I'll tie it into like when people are talking about how they deal with, they're angry about things, dealing with anger, essential oils are great for calming that anger. 'Cause I have anger too sometimes, but my wife got into essential oils years ago and I poo-pooed them the best I could for a long time. And then next thing you know, I'm using them and I sleep with a diffuser next to my bed every night with peace and calming in it or orange or something like that. It's great. And I'll also say that when you're talking about organic food, and I think that's a big piece. I try to talk to my patients. I have to be very careful because I want to recommend diets, but I always tell them, you might want to look into this or look into that. Because I think I've done a lot of research myself over the last so many years. And obviously social media is a big part of that, into like ketogenic diets and eating clean, what foods you should eat that are, organic, and some maybe you don't have to. I've got so much knowledge in my head about that stuff now too, that, but I think it's important because a lot of our patients, I think, are sometimes told to eat a diet that may not be the best thing for them. But I can't say you're on the wrong diet, but I can say, you might want to but sometimes talking to their doctor may not even be the best, because sometimes the nutrition they're taught in medical school and things is not exactly what they should be doing too. So, but there's so much. I always tell people, get out there and find real information for yourself, because there's a lot of people going in the wrong direction, and I think there's some ways to help yourself.
That's great input. Mike, you're full of surprises. Essential oils and diet. My goodness, we should have had you on the roundtable sooner.
Well, I'm not tiny. I've been dealing with weight my whole life, and I have that struggle too with things. It's like trying to find the right thing, exercise and all that stuff. So, but
Mike, call me.
So, Amanda, you were jumping out of your skin. What did you want to say about this?
I love what Mike said. It's not a one size fits all. You need to get educated. And because you see somebody else doing something that may work for them, don't assume it's going to work for you. I love that on the roundtable, we have a collective of beings, a collective of cultures and genetics, and we've all found something that works for us. But education is critical, and also to listening to what actually works for you is what's going to make the difference on finding the success for you.
Catherine, go ahead. Well
So,
said, Amanda.
Another thing to keep in mind is when you do try something new, even if it is with food, you do have to give it a little bit of time for your body to adjust, because sometimes you think it might be working and then 2 weeks later it may backfire on you completely. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with that right now because I do have a central lymphatic issue, and that will be fixed in June. And that unfortunately is causing a lot of weight issues. I can gain or lose anywhere between 17 and 25 pounds overnight right now. So it's a hot mess. So trying to find that happy medium right now has not been easy.
Thanks for saying that. And thanks for being so transparent about your own life, Catherine. We appreciate it. Kelly, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think we can all agree when it comes to diet. I can honestly tell you sugar and like processed sugar and flour, processed foods are not good for you. I'm just going to tell you that right now. They're inflammatory to the body. And I'm not going to tell you what diet to eat, but I'm telling you, quit eating those. You'll pay for that donut. And Mike, bourbon is not an essential oil. I'm going to clarify that.
Okay, Alexa, when you're posting this on YouTube, I think the headline should be "Bourbon is not an essential oil." And let's see if we get more traffic as a result. Nasreen saying, how did I end up on this panel tonight? This is craziness. You know, I feel for Mary Lou Kaufman out there, and you wrote this question, Mary Lou. She has lymphedema in both legs, no cancer or chemo. It's not hereditary. How did I get this?
Can I jump in?
Yep.
I'm not trying to dismantle on how you got it, because I think there's a lot of us, because I'm a complex, not complex, but I was diagnosed both primary and secondary. Stop dwelling on how and start looking at what can you do.
Yeah.
Right. I hated the fact that I had lymphedema. I did not want to accept that I had lymphedema. I got angry because I have to be a better person with lymphedema. But stop focusing on how you got it and start focusing on what you can do because of it. And I know it's a lot easier said than done. Trust me, because I stayed in my past for way too many years. But oh my goodness, Mary Lou, there's so much you can do to get your life back, to get yourself on track and actually live a life that you deserve to live and that you enjoy to live.
That's a great perspective. And I also want you to weigh in, Nasreen.
So there are, just like she was saying, that there are many, many causes for secondary lymphedema. The one thing that I would want you to look for, though, is there's many causes of swelling in the legs too. So if you have any other sort of medical issues, you may need to follow up with your doctor, because there can be cardiac concerns that can cause leg swelling, vascular concerns. And so we don't want to just assume that you're having the swelling because of lymphedema when maybe you could be having something else going on too. So I would follow up with your primary care physician and make sure. But if you already have gone that route, then yes, definitely, get in and get some treatment. Because there's many different reasons why you may have your swelling, and your therapist could probably help you figure that out too.
And if you're like Kelly, it could be thoracic complications. Just throwing it out there. So
I will tell you, the central lymphatic thing, that's what people reach out to me for when they go and try to get help somewhere else and it's not working.
Yeah.
That's when they come to me and I try to help figure it out with them.
Yeah, people often look at the limbs as the complication, but we're starting to figure out that the thoracic is very, very
4 years for my lymphedema to show up in my legs, but it was here for
all along. Yeah,
long time. So
well, we are so running out of time. I want to say
Oh, but
this.
Brenda, I need some.
hold on.
I need 2 seconds, real quick.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So you announced in the very beginning about Alexa getting an award at the Lymphopress awards night. However, you forgot to mention that you were elected for Employee of the Year for Lymphopress.
Well deserved, well deserved.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's really fun. And I felt like Sally Field, although I couldn't be at the ceremony. It was like, you like me, you really like me. It was super, super special.
Weren't you in
We
Florence?
are running out of time. I want to say this to everybody. First of all, I love the spirited discussion tonight. Wow, it was juicy. You are the CEO of your own life. So you can take everything you've heard and you can flush it, or you can take some things you've heard and pursue it. It is on you, but we are rooting for you all the way. So a few other questions. Francis Graham wanted to know, what is that hard tissue associated with edema? That's called fibrosis. And higher pressures, which are available through the Lymphopress, can help to break it up. That's another whole story, but you can go to our website. We have a boatload of information about fibrosis for you, Francis Graham. She's wanting to know where Cam is. Cam has taken a position with Learn, the Lymphatic Education and Resource Network or Research Network, and we're so excited for him. So he will come and visit every now and then, but his new job has him pretty tied up in advocacy for lymphedema, and we're so proud of him. And with that, my friends, we appreciate you. We're so glad you joined us. We are honored that you shared an hour of your month with us. And to all of our wonderful panelists, you are appreciated. And I thank you so much for your time. Hey, we'll see you next month at the Lymphedema Patient Roundtable. See you then. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.